Just between you and me, let me ask you something completely honest. Have you ever been so deeply tired that the good things in your life, the things you love the most, started feeling like a heavy burden? You love your church. You love the ministry God gave you, but secretly when the alarm goes off on Sunday, you dread it a little bit. You adore your kids and your family, but the truth is you fantasize about a 48-hour nap in a silent, dark room, maybe especially if you're a mom of young children. You poured your soul into starting that business or leading that team, but lately you find yourself daydreaming about selling coconuts on a quiet beach somewhere and hoping that God will never again ask you to manage another volunteer. If that feeling is sitting in your gut right now, listen to me. You're not broken. You're not a failure. You are simply human. Today we're talking about the secret reality of leading when you're exhausted and how you can genuinely recharge without quitting the calling that God put on your life. Because God never said, "Blessed are the burned out, for they shall impress everyone with their sheer effort." No, God looks right at you and says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." So if you're tired, frustrated, or even secretly on the edge of giving up, this episode is for you. It might just save your ministry, your marriage, or maybe just your sanity. So let's be honest with ourselves. Leadership is exhausting. But I want you to hear this. It's not because you're weak. It's because people are heavy. Your people are heavy. My people are heavy. Think about you on a Tuesday. You're not just leading meetings. You're shouldering someone's marriage crisis, someone else's job loss, and another person's crisis of faith. That's heavy work. You're in good company. Moses knew exactly how you feel. Do you remember that story in the Bible? Moses was leading millions of complaining people through a desert full of sand and demands. Those are two things that no one on earth enjoys. We don't love, maybe you like the sand of the beach, but not when it gets all over your car. And we don't like being bombarded with complaints and demands. And in Numbers 11:14, Moses finally cries out, and you can almost hear his tired sigh. "I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me." Have you ever felt that despair? That's not rebellion or a bad attitude. It's exhaustion talking. Too often, Christian leaders like you are running on fumes, spiritual fumes, caffeine, and maybe a crushing sense of guilt. We preach grace, but we practice hustle. We teach rest, but we secretly feel guilty if we take a day off. And somewhere in the daily grind, we confuse burnout with faithfulness. I want you to know that God doesn't like using a burnt out you, right? Let's fix that. There is a kind of sickness of being always on. Modern leadership has a disease, and I call it availability addiction. You know the feeling. You're terrified to miss a call, to delay a text reply by even an hour, or to actually let someone else handle a problem. You act like the whole world will stop spinning if you rest for 24 hours. Newsflash, it won't. God was running the universe long before your inbox even existed. Let's look at the ultimate model for you, Jesus, the Son of God. Jesus held the universe together, and yet Jesus took naps. Remember Mark 4? The disciples are absolutely panicking in a violent storm, thinking they're about to die. And what's Jesus doing? He's sleeping, completely unplugged in the middle of chaos. Listen to this. If Jesus can nap in the middle of a literal, life-threatening storm, you can certainly take a Sabbath without that paralyzing guilt. Let me tell you a story that many of you have probably heard far too often. It's a story about a well-intentioned pastor, and for sake of anonymity, let's just call him Bruce. Bruce planted a church, and it grew incredibly fast. People loved him. You might even be able to picture yourself in his shoes. He was preaching 4 services every weekend, running nonstop meetings all week long, and the biggest word he knew was yes. It's almost like the word no was not even part of his vocabulary. But behind the smiles and the great sermons, Bruce was quietly unraveling. He started snapping at his kids over tiny things. He felt totally numb during worship. And he was secretly wondering if God even noticed him anymore, despite all of his work. Maybe even wondering if God really existed. And you probably know what Bruce did, right? Finally, he resigned the ministry. But here's the painful part. He didn't quit to rest. He quit to recover. Later on, he said, I didn't quit ministry because I hated it. I quit because I didn't know how to rest while I was staying in it. My family actually owns a retreat center called Elijah's Harbor. It was started by Mike Jackson many years ago, and we bought it from him, I guess, about 8 years ago now. And there are several beautiful homes on 200 rolling acres at the foothills of the Tennessee mountains. It's in Greenville, Tennessee, just an hour from Asheville. Just a beautiful place to get away and rest. And it's a place where burnt out pastors are able to come and rest and pray and go for long walks. Families come as well. Christian families come for retreats or family reunions, and we have couples retreats there and prayer retreats and pastoral retreats. But often we found that pastors especially just need to rest and recharge. Also, we have a lot of missionaries who come to Elijah's Harbor. And I'm not just trying to advertise Elijah's Harbor. It's a nonprofit ministry, and I'm the chairman of the board there. But why am I talking about burnout? I mean, personally, I've been really close to burnout before. I don't know if I've crossed the line or not, but I can think of times when I've been super close. Maybe you have too. I'm sharing this with you because for so many leaders, throwing in the towel truly looks easier than figuring out how to recharge. But quitting what God called you to do isn't rest, it's resignation. So how do we, or more specifically, how do you recharge and refill your cup without walking away? I want you to make 3 simple rhythms part of your life this week. The first is the rhythm of rest. God created the Sabbath, right? Genesis 2:2 says, by the 7th day, God had finished his work, so he rested. Think about that. If God paused, you can definitely pause. The Sabbath isn't a reward you get only after finishing your work. It's a command that reminds you that you are not God. Try this simple step. Pick one day this week, turn off your notifications, all of them. I actually recommend keeping your notifications off all the time. But on that day, turn off all your notifications, maybe put your plane in airplane mode, eat your meals slowly, pray without multitasking, and just pause and let your soul exhale. Sabbath is God's personal reset button for a tired leader like you. And I realize, especially if you're a pastor, it might be hard for that to specifically be Saturday, but you need some day that is a day of rest, that you step off the hamster wheel of life, the busyness of your schedule. Number 2, practice the rhythm of renewal. So rather than Sabbath, I'm going to call this solitude. Mark 1:35 says, Jesus went off to a solitary place to pray. Jesus withdrew often, not because he was weak or antisocial, but to stay strong for the week ahead. Leaders who never unplug inevitably end up spiritually short-circuiting. You don't need a monastery, you just need a moment. You just need some time, and it might be your Sabbath time, it might be different. It might be, you might have to get away for a full weekend. It might be every 3 months you take a 1-week sabbatical, or every 6 months. It might just be starting with 15 minutes a day where you have no phone, no email, no podcast, just silence and stillness. A week or 2 ago, I did a YouTube video on taking a 30-minute tech-free walk. That might be a good start for you. But you can do that, right? Solitude refills the internal strength that your leadership drains. And number 3, the rhythm of relationships, or you could call this community. I recently, just a couple days ago, did a YouTube video on the importance of community, and I know how much I need that. Galatians 6:2 says, carry one another's burdens. But how can anyone carry your burden if you never admit to them that you're tired? Elijah was so burnt out, he literally prayed, Lord, just take my life. God didn't scold him, did he? Remember, he came to him with the still small voice and with a meal. Elijah needed a rest. He needed to eat. Ultimately, God, in a sense, is going to send him a friend named Elisha. Sometimes the most spiritual and powerful thing you can do is simply let someone else help you. You don't need more fans. You need real friends who know the real you. And that's sometimes scary, isn't it? Let me give you some practical recharge tips for your calling. Let's make this practical and personal wherever you lead, right? So if you're a pastor or ministry leader, take a true digital Sabbath, one day where you don't check email, text, or the church's social media at all. And please stop apologizing for taking your Monday off. It's okay. You just preached, you counseled, you led people through a spiritual battlefield. You've earned a nap. I've been a youth pastor before. I'm ordained. I was for about a year and a half, I was an interim pastor. My dad was a pastor. My father-in-law is a pastor. All three of my brothers are in pastoral ministry, and both of my brother-in-laws are in pastoral ministry. So I've been around a lot of pastors. You don't have to apologize for a day off. If you're an entrepreneur or business owner, you likely feel that rest is unproductive. But burnout kills more businesses than bad strategy ever will. Schedule rest the same way you schedule revenue. If it's not on your calendar, it's probably not going to happen, so put it on your calendar. If you're a parent, and probably the majority of you watching this perhaps are parents, you are not failing if you're tired. You're simply pouring yourself out constantly. Take 30 minutes after bedtime to read, pray, or just breathe. It's one of the best things you can do for your kids is to try to get some rest and solitude for yourself. And remember this, Jesus loves your kids more than you do. Jesus loves my kids more than I do. And I love my 5 kids like crazy, but Jesus loves them even more. And Jesus can absolutely handle them while you take a moment to rest. How do you recognize when you're running on empty? I want to give you a simple checklist to recognize when you need that pause. And this is for you, right? Here are your warning signs. You feel numb during the things that used to bring you the most joy, like worship or serving or being around your family and your kids. You're irritable and snapping at people over small, stupid things. And you actually look back and you think, why did I snap at them over that? It was such a little thing. You physically can't rest. Even when you stop working, your mind just keeps spinning. You've lost your joy, but you've still kept every single one of your responsibilities. When you see those kind of signs in yourself, don't push harder. Pause. Pause longer than you think you need to. Rest is not a retreat, leader. It's an essential repair. Don't feel guilty about rest. You need to follow your pace, not the world's, right? That's the model of Jesus. This is the ultimate lesson for you. Jesus was never, ever in a hurry. That's remarkable, isn't it? He walked everywhere. He napped through storms. He regularly withdrew to pray. And yet he still absolutely changed the world with his 3 years of ministry. By far more than anyone else who's ever lived. And I think even unsaved people probably admit that, right? You don't have to run faster to lead better. You simply have to walk closer with God. Leadership burnout happens when your output exceeds your intake. Jesus stayed completely full and powerful because he stayed intimately close to the Father. My encouragement to you is this: stay close. Stay connected to your source. And if you're sitting there tired today, please listen to my voice and don't quit. Do not make permanent decisions based on temporary exhaustion. You're not failing. You're simply fatigued. And the good news is fatigue is curable. That should be really exciting to you. It might be hard to believe right now if you're fatigued because it just feels like the end of the world, but this is curable. Now, I'm nearly done. But let me end with some really practical advice. This week, schedule a rest time like it's a meeting with God. You know, as if you had a meeting with a super important person, schedule rest to meet with God because that's what it is. Create space for God's Spirit to breathe life back into your weary lungs. You don't recharge by escaping your calling. You recharge by simply reconnecting to your source. Psalm 23 says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul." Sometimes God's greatest gift to you is simply a quiet moment and a profound reminder that you are not him. You're not God, and neither am I, and it's better that way. So leader, rest. Refill your tank. You're not Superman, you're not Superwoman, and you don't have to be, because there are lots of people who still absolutely need you, but they need the rested you, not the rushed you, not the burnt out you, not the stressed you that snaps at everything. Get some rest. Thanks so much for staying with me to the end of this video. I hope that it was helpful to you. If so, consider doing the little like or subscribe to the channel if you haven't, or even share this with a Christian leader friend of yours. And I hope you have a wonderful day resting in Jesus.